Hi, welcome to Senior Moment, Successful Aging. I'm your host, Mary Beals-Ludka. Senior Moment is co-sponsored by Yavapai College Division of Lifelong Learning and the Area Agency on Aging, NACOG. You can reach the Area Agency on Aging toll-free at 877-521-3500. And you can reach our producer from the Division of Lifelong Learning, Nancy Bennett, at 717-7607. So if you have any questions about today's show or maybe ideas about something you'd like to have us do a show about, give Nancy a call. She would love to hear from you. Again, her number is 717-7607. And today we have a special guest, Jean Jongsma. Hi, Jean.
Hi. Great to see you.
It's nice to see you too. Jean and I go back a long ways, 20-some years.
Yes.
In social services in a variety of capacities. But today you're here as the program coordinator for Northern Arizona University Civic Service Institute. Did I say that right?
That's right.
That's right. Your title is long.
Yes, it is.
So let's start out with a little bit about you. You know, and how long have you been in the Prescott area?
I've been in the Prescott area for 42 years. 25 of those years I spent working at Catholic Charities. And part of that time I did Social Security disability advocacy. And the rest of the time I was an elderly case manager and a supervisor. So the elderly are really my passion. And then I retired from Catholic Charities and decided life was pretty boring without doing something. So I am now working for NAU for 15 hours a week in their Senior Corps program.
So a lot of folks don't know, I know they have several programs, so I thought we'd spend a little time talking about each one of them. And just starting out, what are the three programs that mainly the Senior Corps does?
Okay, the first program is the Senior Companion Program. And the Senior Companion Program lines up healthy, active adults with the frail elderly. And our volunteers are expected to pay about 4 hours a week with each of their clients, and they take them grocery shopping, to doctor's appointments, just being a companion. Sometimes they play cards for 4 hours, but it's a way to help keep the frail elderly more independent. And they get to get outside. A lot of them don't drive anymore. So we have that program. And then we also have the foster grandparent program, which lines up healthy, active seniors with children in the schools. A foster grandparent can work in a school, Head Start, a correctional institution, boys and girls clubs. But in Prescott, all of my foster grandparents work in the school system. It's actually Prescott Valley, Chino, the whole area. And those two programs, the Senior Companion Program and the Foster Grandparent Program, are for people 55 and older who can volunteer a minimum of 15 hours a week. And they have to be income eligible. So if one person would like to be a senior companion or foster grandparent, their earnings would have to be below $22,000 a year. But we pay those people a stipend. It's tax-free. So they earn $2.65 an hour and mileage money, lunch reimbursement. They earn sick days and vacation days, and wow. We have about 16 holidays a year that they're paid for. And they have secondary insurance, liability on their car. And a lot of my volunteers make between $500 and $650 a month.
That's a great incentive.
That's tax-free. So, and that's the big part, is it's tax-free. So it doesn't count if you're in low housing or anything.
That was going to be my next question. Does it affect benefits?
It doesn't affect any benefits that you're on, and I have a little letter that I can give them.
So you can give their housing authority.
Yes.
So let's go back to the Senior Companion Program a little. I know, just briefly, and then we're going to concentrate on the foster grandparent program. But on the Senior Companion Program, I just wanted to point out that in these days and times, economic issues that we're having, I know at the Area Agency on Aging, we don't have the funds to provide home care for everybody. And I know that Senior Companions, we're a host agency for the Senior Companions, really help that gap where someone really just needs, and sometimes someone just to listen.
Right, right.
You know.
And most of our referrals do come from your agency, and a lot of those people are homebound. They've been homebound for years. Yeah. The neighbors get groceries, but they themselves don't get out. And so when they have a Senior Companion, they're able to finally get out and do a few things, go to the park. So it's really a great program. Isolation is part of
a big factor for depression, and
yes.
And I know that program really helps. And I'm so glad that you're there. And I imagine you need more Senior Companions.
Yes, we absolutely need more Senior Companions.
So if somebody wanted to have a Senior Companion, let's say somebody's listening to the show, and they're not going through the Area Agency on Aging, they don't have to. They could just call directly, could they? Or does it have to be referred?
It has to be referred by a host agency, but there are many host agencies. So it's possible to get them in that way.
So can you give me some example of some of the host agencies?
Sure. CASA in Prescott Valley.
The Senior Center, okay.
And your agency and YRMC, we have a contract with. And some of the health agencies and people who care are... I'm working with them right now, so hopefully they're coming on board.
Good.
And Chino Valley Meal Center.
Excellent. So there's a lot of different ways to access the program, and I think that's
correct.
Important to note out. Well, what if I wanted to be a Senior Companion? You talked about the eligibility, but where would I call?
You would call me.
Okay.
And my number is area code 928-713-4114, and you would fill out an application and be fingerprinted. All of our volunteers are FBI verified. So it's a little bit of a process, takes about 2 or 3 weeks, but the more the merrier. We need more volunteers, absolutely.
So the Senior Companion Program is 15 hours a week?
Minimum. Yes,
okay.
They can work up to 25.
Okay, and so if I was a Senior Companion, I might have more than one client.
Oh, you would.
That I would get to visit with and create a relationship with.
You would have about 6 a week if you wanted to work 20 hours.
What's the average time I would spend with one person?
3 or 4 hours.
3 or 4 hours. That's a good amount of time.
Yeah, and that way that person knows that Lillian, her volunteer, is coming on Tuesday afternoon at 1. And it's unbelievable how these homebound people look forward to that time with their volunteer.
And everybody needs something to look forward to.
Right. And it's unbelievable to me how many of these elderly people have no one anymore. They have outlived everyone. And so...
Yeah, part of aging is loss,
right.
And that's one of the losses when you live to be, in your and 85 plus. We just got the stats out for the census, 2010 census, and the growth is the largest in the 85 plus.
Yes,
the largest. And Yavapai County's over the moon at the growth that we've had in the last 10 years. Unbelievable. So there's such a great need out there, and I think on the other side of the coin, what a great way to feel better about yourself.
Right. Then to give time
Yeah.
to help other people. Yeah, and all you really need to know to be a senior companion is how to be a friend, because that's what it really is. It's a
So if I didn't feel
friendship.
comfortable taking people places in my car, I could still be a senior companion.
Absolutely.
You know, and you do a match.
Yes.
And do you get to work on that, matching folks?
I do that, yes.
I
I
think that
go
would be
out
fun.
and meet the client, and yeah.
I think that would be fun, trying to figure out who would match with
Right,
who.
right.
So, and speaking of matching, and then on the, working with the elderly, and it's very important, but you also have the foster grandparent program.
Yes.
So I'd like to hear more about that and how that works.
Okay, the foster grandparent program, we have about 10 foster grandparents right now in the area. And they work in the schools, usually one-on-one with a student. Sometimes they have 4 children. That's as many as we allow in a little group. And they usually sit off in a corner and they help the student with reading or math, whatever they're having a problem with. And they take a lot of time with these children, and they can work between 15 and 40 hours a week. We have different fundings for different programs, and foster grandparents seems to have quite a bit of funding in it. So we are always asked by the school. I recently got an email from Coyote Springs, and it said, "Jean, I need 8 foster grandparents." And I was like, well, that's wonderful. I hope I can find you one. So we really, really need a lot of foster grandparents.
Giving to the children, I think that intergenerational piece, it's so important for both sides. I know years ago we had the foster grandparents on the show. Oh my gosh, I don't remember her name who was doing it then. How could I forget her name? But we had the child on.
Oh,
And
interesting.
she was a triplet. And that special time she got with her foster grandparent, because it was always the 3 kids and then they had more children in the family, and she really needed that special attention and that one-on-one. I imagine you have some good stories about that.
I do. I have a story about a little boy named Sam. He's one of my favorite stories. He started school in August here. He didn't live here previously, but both of his parents are in prison. So his grandmother landed up having custody of him. And he started 2nd grade, and the teacher noticed right away that he was very withdrawn and he wouldn't really participate or play with the other children. And she also noticed that he was really behind in his math and reading skills. So she set him up with one of our foster grandparents named Betty. And Betty's been a foster grandparent at the same school for 14 years.
Wow.
She's in her 80s, and everybody loves her. And so she was assigned to Sam. And every day she would go to meet him at the front of the school and ask him if he had eaten breakfast, because usually he hadn't. So she took him to the cafeteria and they would eat breakfast. And then she would take him to the classroom, and she worked one-on-one with him. And she spends an hour in the morning with him on his reading, and then she spends time in the afternoon with his math. But he has slowly started to come out of his shell, and he's always very excited to see her, and he's doing so much better in school. And she said the best thing that ever happened was one day she was walking him out of school, and he turned around and waved goodbye to her and said, "Bye, Grandma Betty, I love you so much. I'll see you tomorrow." But foster grandparents are the people that children go to when they need love and wisdom. and support. Often the love that they get from a foster grandparent and the attention is the only attention they really get, because once they get home, there's a bunch of other kids, people are working. So it's really a great relationship. And the people who are foster grandparents, my volunteers, they just love what they do.
So you need more foster grandparents.
I could use as many foster grandparents as I could possibly
get. So you go into the Humboldt School District, Prescott
Yes.
School District, Unified,
We're even in Congress.
and in Congress. So how old are the children that the grandparents get assigned to?
Well, that's their choice.
Okay.
But usually they want to spend time with the small children. So it's usually kindergarten through third grade, but they can be any level they want. And I would eventually like to get into the juvenile correctional system. I just haven't had time to work on that.
To nurture that. So would we call you if we wanted to be a foster grandparent?
You would call me.
What would be
yes.
the criteria? What are you looking for in a foster grandparent?
Somebody who's 55 years or older,
Okay.
who absolutely loves children, and who is low income.
It's stipended as well?
It's stipended.
That's hard to say, isn't it?
Stipend
I didn't
as
know
well.
that's a word.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It comes with a stipend.
Thank you. Well said.
And all of the benefits,
Okay.
the insurance and everything.
What a great way to supplement your income a little bit. Like you said, no taxes, and what a way to give back. So here's a dumb question. So I'm not really very good at math, but I love children. So do the teachers help with the tutoring? So I wouldn't want to be counted on, let's say I got a third grader. I mean, they get into complicated math
Yes,
exams.
they do.
Like forte.
They do. We provide an initial training on
good.
our policies and what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do as a foster grandparent. But then the school takes over. And the teacher will spend all the time, because she's got someone there to help her. So she's willing to spend the time to help you learn the math so you can then teach it to the children.
So another benefit, I could learn math.
Yes.
Again, I mean, I can do basic arithmetic, but when it gets into the algebra and the geometry, I get a little lost. And I'm certainly over 55, so. Is there, and so if I was working foster grandparent, so I would need to be able to be available during school hours.
Yes.
And is there a minimum, like you said, 15 hours?
15 hours,
Okay.
but you can work up to 40. Most of my foster grandparents work about 30 to 40 hours a week because they love it.
Because they love it. Well, and it also, we're talking, this show is about successful living, successful aging, and part of being successful is being engaged.
Right.
And being a part of. And it sounds like both these programs are a good way to be a part of, whether you like working with seniors or you like working with children. There was a third program you didn't mention yet.
Yes. I have a program called the RSVP program, and it's the largest network of volunteers in the United States. Currently, they estimate there's 500,000 volunteers in that program. And that's not income-based. So you could actually be a foster grandparent or a senior companion even, but you would do it under this program. You wouldn't be paid the stipend.
Okay.
But we have many, many opportunities. I have 90 RSVP volunteers in Prescott, but there's opportunities at the VA, at local food banks, many opportunities. And if a person was interested in working somewhere, we could work with that company and probably get an memorandum of understanding with them. So, it's just the idea of the network is to keep track of how many millions of hours volunteers are giving to the community.
And I know that just recently the state of Arizona did a challenge for everybody to volunteer at least X amount of hours a year. And so it is interesting to track hours and track how many volunteers there are. You were mentioning earlier there was a show on NBC recently.
Oh, yes, on NBC Nightly News. Yeah. I have to read this so I can remember. But they state that there are 28,000 foster grandparents in the United States, and they have volunteered 24 million hours just last year alone. And they have served 232,000 youth. So foster grandparent program is a huge program nationwide.
Those are staggering numbers, yet it sounds like RSVP is even larger than that because it encompasses a lot more.
Yes.
So you're talking about a lot of volunteer hours, and now with all the politics, and there's always politics in everything we do, talking about personal responsibility, community responsibility, and we're getting cut more and more in government funding, and so we all need to be a part of our community. It takes a village to raise a child and a village to care for our elders.
Right.
In both respects.
Right.
So every single program you have, it's just so exciting. I want to take some time off and be a foster grandparent. I think another nice thing is I only have one grandchild, and she lives in Colorado. And you have some grandchildren as well, and how important they are to our lives.
Yes, right. And a lot of my volunteers do not have grandchildren, so these are their grandchildren. And every month we have a training meeting, and I hear story after story about, what my little boy said today, or, And one of the funniest ones is we have a volunteer who's been at Lincoln School for, I think, 16 years now. And she had this little boy that she tutored, and it was the volunteer's birthday. So everyone was singing happy birthday to her. And he said, "Grandma Gerald, how old are you?" And she said, "I'm 87. And he started to cry. And she said, "Why are you crying?" And he said, "Because you're just so old." So those little guys really, they love their foster grandparents.
Do you have, it sounds like you have mostly grandmas.
I actually do at this time only have grandmas, but grandpas are more than... Yes, we need some grandpas. I have several gentlemen senior companions, but not foster grandparents. So.
Well, I'm glad you answered one of my questions. I was really excited about the fact that, I may not qualify income-wise, but I could also still do that program through RSVP volunteering and just give my time and not expect the stipend, and I wouldn't need it.
Right. You do get paid, you do get secondary insurance on that program. So if you're on the job and something happens to you, you're covered medically and in your automobile.
Well, that's still a benefit.
Correct.
So and don't you still get, do you get any mileage for RSVP?
The program has been cut and cut and cut.
Oh.
And if you need the mileage to get, then they'll only pay 10 cents a mile, but still it's something.
Another thing to think about is can I, if I volunteer through RSVP, and of course I'm not, but I have plenty of money and I just want to give, can I donate my miles back to you so that you can use that in your budget for in-kind? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Yes, and
not to get all convoluted, but
no, I don't believe that's possible.
Okay, well, it was a shot in the dark.
But
so it's really important to call you.
Yes.
And what was that number again?
Area code 928-713-4114.
4114. So, and they're going to show that on the bottom of the screen during the show, and they can also call Yavapai College to get that number, or us, and I'll repeat those numbers in a minute. So we've got, and it's under NAU. So
yes.
It's under the umbrella of Northern Arizona University.
Yes.
And so you've got senior companions.
Yes.
Again, being a friend for somebody, reaching out and touching. somebody, because we all need human contact.
Right.
We all need human contact and stimulation
Right.
on both sides of the coin. For the senior companion, you know, to me it's stimulating. When I used to do home visits, I loved going out and listening to the stories.
Oh, I did too.
And the
Yes.
wisdom. I miss
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I miss that.
Yeah.
And then the other piece is the foster grandparents, which again, you know, working with a young child and helping them with their reading and writing, and that's our, you know, that's our future. You know, helping those kids so they have somebody. I was one of 6, so anytime I got separate attention was
Good.
worth it. Way to go. And then the RSVP seems like kind of umbrellas over both of those.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Is there anything that we haven't mentioned that maybe you'd like to bring out before I cut you off?
Before you cut me off.
I love the stories.
Well, actually, what popped into my mind is we have another lady, Winnie, who's been a volunteer for 16 or 17 years. She actually won Volunteer of the Year award a couple of years ago, the Governor's Award. And she will be in the grocery store. I've actually been with her when this has happened, and somebody will say, Grandma Winnie, and it'll be a person, you know, who's 25, 26 years old with children of their own, and they remember her from when they were in school. So foster grandparents have a huge impact on the children that they serve.
Absolutely. They're just wonderful programs. And I hope that you all pick up the phone and give a call. And if you didn't catch the number, you can also call Yavapai College Division of Lifelong Learning, 717-7607. Or you can always call Area Agency on Aging toll free, 877-521-3500. We have 3 information referral specialists waiting to hear from you, answer your questions, refer you to folks like Jean Jongsma at Northern Arizona University and the Senior Core Program. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us today on Senior Moment, Successful Aging. Until next time.